Right. So fine. Welcome to the training. Fine. So I'll actually tell you about a brief history of Selenium and the future. Where is it going? Fine. There are many people who come to me and tell me that, fine, Ashish, what is the future of this tool? What is the current market requirement? I want to switch my job and lot of things. Look, I'll first explain you the history, future, and then little bit overview of the job market as well. How is the job market? Right. So, look, initially when Selenium came up, okay, right, there used to be something known as Selenium RC. Okay, hold on. Let me draw a diagram. Just a minute. There used to be something known as, there were three components. Okay, one's known as RC, IDE, and GRID. Now, most of you must be knowing about these, right? There are people who have no background, so I'm just talking about them as well over here. Okay, IDE is still used. It's a tool which works on Mozilla, but it's not a very good advice to use it because it's primarily a record and run tool. Okay, right. So now the thing is, people, if when you have a project, suppose you have a project of 2000 test cases or 5000 test cases, you cannot use IDE over there because IDE will generate no reports, nothing for you. It's just a simple record and run tool. Fine. So that's why in the beginning, when Selenium was launched, maybe in 2006 or 7, right, they had a tool known as RC. RC could work on multiple browsers and it could generate reports and all everything, but there were like many drawbacks in RC and all. Okay, that is why the new version of Selenium came up in 2011. It is known as WebDriver. Right. Now, WebDriver could also test your applications across multiple browsers, generate reports and all. Right. And it could actually help you automate your application in a very dynamic way. Fine. But a tester had to learn a programming language like Java or C Sharp or Ruby or Python and all. Right. So that's the thing. Fine. Now, it was not that RC was migrated to WebDriver. There were few drawbacks in RC. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the drawbacks right now. Okay, RC was not migrated to WebDriver. This did not happen. WebDriver has a completely new API. Fine. And IDE, it is still used in the market. If you have a small application which is having 10 to 12 test cases and it's not a very complex one, you can use IDE. Fine. And GRID is still used. It is also still used. GRID is something which will help you to run your test cases parallelly across multiple machines. Right. Fine. Okay. Right. Now, anybody having any questions in this, you can let me know. Fine. Now, the next thing, what is the future of Selenium? Look, some various tools are coming in the market which are built on top of Selenium. For example, a tool has come up known as Appium. It's gone very famous, right? And it is actually used for mobile automation for iOS as well as Android devices. Okay, now Appium is a tool which is built on top of Selenium. It uses Selenium API. Fine, so to understand Appium, you need to learn Selenium. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about Appium in this course because it's altogether a different API as well. Fine, but I'm just telling you that tools are coming up which are built on top of Selenium. right? And how is the job market for this tool? Look, if you want to get a job, primarily you have to learn WebDriver and GRID. There is no need to learn RC. It is outdated. Fine. And at times people get confused that, okay, I'll answer this, Nitin, just a minute. At times people get confused that whether I should learn Selenium or should I go to QTP or some other tool, which is the best one to learn for a job market. Okay, although you all have joined the Selenium training, but many of you might have this doubt because people ask me. So you just go to this website, dice.com. It's a very famous website in US. Fine. And you just type Selenium over here. Okay, I'm not putting any location. Okay, just searching for jobs in Selenium. So you will yourself get the insight that there are around 1300 or 1400 jobs in US right now for Selenium. But if you talk about QTP, or even if you search UFT, which is the latest what they call, fine, you will find 550 locations for QTP, or you can also type UFT and again 550. So Selenium has got a requirement, fine, but it's a little technical tool. Okay, now the question being asked is that is online training session enough to make my own Selenium framework? Okay, so look, the thing is, what do you mean by a framework first? Most of it is enough to do it, I'll tell you, but most of the people, they don't know what framework means. Fine. If you talk about a scenario wherein you have to automate 100 test cases, generate reports, and read the data from the Excel file, automate your application end to end basically. Okay, there are various frameworks which are available and which can do that. Okay, so yes, in this training we will be taking up frameworks and you can do that. Okay, fine. Right. Anybody having any other question? Anybody with any other question? Right, fine. Now let us move forward. Okay, so this was just a brief introduction and Selenium history and all, right? And another thing is, why is Java important? Okay, people, this is the major mistake which people do. They don't tend to learn Java. Directly they'll jump on Selenium and then they'll lose their interest. Okay, if you go to the official website of Selenium, fine. If you go to the official website of Selenium, which is seleniumhq.org, fine. And if you look at the first line, first of all, it says that Selenium automates browsers. That is, Selenium is only for the automation of the browser-based apps, that is web apps. Oh, yeah, Partha, I will give you the access to Google Drive. Okay, this link, I think I need to keep it open. Okay, I'll give you. Just give me some time after this class. Right. Now, if you go to the download link over here, okay, you will see a Java documentation link over here, Java doc. Okay, if you click on this link, this will open up the documentation for Selenium. This is the official documentation of Selenium. Fine. If you don't know Java, you will not be able to understand it. Okay. By saying that Java, what I mean is, I mean the concepts of object-oriented programming. Okay, it's not that I'm asking you to learn for loops or if statements. Okay, you need to know what inheritance is, what encapsulation is, what do you mean by constructors and all that stuff. Okay, which I will be talking about. So without that, you cannot just jump over to Selenium. Fine. Pranay, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Yeah,
okay.
One question I have. Like you said, it is only for browsers, right? So what about
yes.
I have some desktop application in my application? Say file browsing dialog.
File browsing dialog, you can handle it. Okay, you have to converge auto IT into Selenium, right? If you have already got the access to the videos, then first 15th module shows this. I'm not sure whether you have got the access or not. but 15th module shows this,
Okay,
that
yeah.
yeah, auto IT have shown, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Now moving ahead. Sorry. Right. Now, if you talk about Java, the first thing is you need to install Java. I hope everybody has installed Java because you are able to join WebEx. And one more thing, to work with Selenium, the most important thing which you need to install is you need to download JDK. Okay, because this is the primary thing. You need to install JDK. If you have installed JRE, fine. You don't need JRE, you need JDK, right? You go to My Computer and go to your program files and you'll find the Java folder under it. You need to have JDK along with JRE. Fine. So install JDK, right? Go to the first link over there. Fine. And right. Um, just a minute. Yeah. So over here, fine. You will have this Java download. Go here. Go to this link and scroll down. Download this one. Okay. Accept the license. Download for your operating system, whether it is 64-bit or 32-bit, whatever it is, and install it. The next thing is that you need to download Eclipse. I hope most of you will have Eclipse, but in case I'm just telling you, just go to Google and type download Eclipse Luna. Prefer downloading Eclipse Luna, okay? Because other Eclipse sometimes it gives issues. Fine. So you go to Eclipse website and you go here and click on the download link. Fine. And you will be able to download Eclipse. Eclipse comes as a bundle, right? When you extract it, you will have a folder like this, Eclipse, and under this you will have the application file for Eclipse which you can start. Fine. Okay, I'm starting from the very basics because there are people who have no knowledge on Java or something. Look, what I'm assuming is that I'm assuming you know the basics, right? You know what programming is, you know what if statement is, what while loop is, what for loop is. Fine, I'm assuming that much. If you are a person who has never done programming, then don't join this training directly. Okay, so click on OK button and okay, it's under use. I've already opened it. Okay, so this is the path of the workspace. Find the place where you will be storing all the code, right? So for your batch, hold on. For your batch, I'll make it as March weekend 2016. Right. I'll make this workspace and hold on. Let it start. Okay. Right. So this is the welcome screen of Eclipse. You can close it. Right. Now in Eclipse, right, this is the project explorer where we'll be keeping all the code and all everything. Fine. So what I'll do is that first of all, I'll create a new project over here. You go to File, New, Project. Right. Okay. So over here, when you select this, right, under General, you will have a project, and under Java, you will have a Java project. Okay. You don't create this general project. Many times people end up creating this one. Okay. Create a Java project. Fine, and I'll call it as day one. Fine, and you finish this. Hold on. Wait. Okay, so now just a minute. Right. So this is day one project you have created in Eclipse. Okay, it will have a source folder and GRE system library. This GRE system library is nothing but Java which is installed on your system. Okay, so right. If you right click on day one, you will have lot of options. We will be seeing these options in the training one by one, right? And if you go to the properties, again, you will have lot of options over here, right? Okay, so out here you will have a Java build path option, right? We'll be using this as well. If you look at the resource option, it shows the position of the day one project on your hard drive. Okay, so just a minute, let me open it. Let me open it. Fine. So this day one project on the hard drive, it looks like this. It's got various file folders, out of which the source folder only is available inside Eclipse. Fine. Inside the source code folder, we'll be keeping our source code. Right. So you create a new class. Fine. And I will, what do you mean by new class? It means a new file. Okay, new class. Okay. And I will just write over here basics of Java language. Fine. You click on this checkbox, public static void main, and hold on. You have a Java file, right? Okay. Out here, you go to Window and you go to Preferences. Fine. And I'll just hold on. I'll just font size, just a minute. If you want to increase it, you can increase it as well. For online training, I need to increase it now. What is this static and all, right? So you will come to know as I proceed with the course. Okay, right. Anybody with any questions? Anybody having any questions? Please let me know. Let me know. Right. Okay, I'm assuming nobody has any questions right now. Fine. Over here, right. Is my voice breaking or is it fine? Fine. So what I am assuming is that right, you know what an integer is, right? You know what a string is, right? You know all these things. Fine. And you know what a for loop is, what a while loop is, and all that stuff. Okay. What I am going to concentrate is on object-oriented programming. Fine. Now, before I concentrate on that, okay, let me explain you the concept of jar file. Okay, right. So out here, if I write system.out.println hello world. Okay, so when you run this will print hello world. Right. Now, if I right click on the project and go to the same location, that means over here, under day one source folder, you will see basics of Java. Okay, right. If you go to the bin folder, fine, you will see the class file corresponding to the basics.java. If you open this class file, you will not be able to understand anything. Every Java file gets converted to a class file. Okay, fine, right. So over here, if I create another Java file, suppose I create a new class known as temp, fine, and I just write over here system.out.println temp. Okay, and when you run this program, fine, you will see that under source folder you will see temp.java, and under bin folder you will see temp.class file. Okay, fine, right. So every Java file is converted to a class file. This class file is equivalent to an exe file, right, which can be executed. You can deliver these class files to the client and they can execute them and all everything, right. So out here, what happens in a project is that you have got many Java files. Okay, right. And every Java file is converted to a class file. Fine. Every Java file will be converted to a class file. So if you have to deliver all these class files to the client, how do you deliver them? You put all these class files into a single file known as a jar file and deliver it to the client. Okay, right. Now out here under day one, fine, you will have the source folder and the Java folder, JRE system library. This is Java which is installed on your PC. Okay, and if you expand this, you will see many jar files. So Java is nothing but a collection of many jar files. Each jar file will will actually have many class files in it, right? Okay, right, many class files. So you can use these class files, the pre-existing ones. Okay, for example, I'll just write over here system.out.println new date. Okay, and right, if I run this, hold on just a minute, it is hanging. Yeah, if I run this, this will print the current and current date, time and all everything. Okay, right. So fine. So how did this current date time came up? Okay, this is because the date class is pre-built, right? The date class is pre-built inside one of these jar files. Okay, and that's a pre-existing functionality which we have used. And the same thing happens in Selenium. Selenium is not installed. Okay, there are various types of you can say um, jar files. I'm sorry. There are various types of jar files. Fine. You can go to the site seleniumhq.org. Right. Over here, go to the downloads link. right? And under downloads, you will see that you will have um, Java docs over here, and there will be a download link where you can download the latest Selenium jar files 2.52. Okay, and you can extract the folder and all everything. It will be a zip file. Now, once you download this, okay, for example, in my PC, just a minute. Uh, for example, if you take up this version 2.47 or whichever you want to take, you will have this jar file. This is the main jar file for Selenium. Okay, and under libs, right, under libs folder, right, you will find the other jar files. Okay, so you need all these jar files, right? So what I'll do is that I will import these jars into Eclipse. Once I import these jars into Eclipse, my project will become Selenium enabled, right? So when I right click on the project, right, and go to the properties, you will have the option Java build path. When you click on that, you will have 4 tabs over here. Okay, go to the libraries tab, fine, and click on add external jars, right, and select the main jar file. Okay, don't select the sources jar file. Sources jar file has the source code of Selenium. You don't need it. Selenium is an open source tool. Anybody can get the source code. Okay, right. So you select this, right, and then go to the libs and select all the jar files. Don't miss out the libs. Many people miss that out. And click on OK. So you will see the reference library section generated over here, under which all the jars will come. In case you don't see it, you need to switch over to the Java perspective in Eclipse. Fine. So what do you mean by Java perspective in Eclipse? You need to click on this icon, right? And once you click on it, you will have a screen like this. In this, select the Java perspective. Okay, right, fine. So you will have reference libraries for the jar files. Okay, now you need to use the pre-existing features inside these jars. There is no rocket science involved in Selenium. Okay, there is nothing like something which you will be inventing or something. Okay, everything is inbuilt. All the commands are inbuilt. Everything is inbuilt. Okay, so what you need to do is, like for example, I write over here new Firefox driver. So once I do this, okay, right, you'll have to import the Firefox driver class from one of the jar files. You will get the option. If you move the mouse over the error, you'll get the option to import it, right? And when you run this program, you will see that a blank Firefox will open up. Okay, so there are pre-existing commands. You see this? Fine. There are pre-existing commands which actually help you to automate the websites. Okay, there is nothing which has to be made from your side. You have to understand the API, and to understand the API, you need to understand the object-oriented programming. What do you mean by API? By telling you API is this documentation, the documentation of Selenium. Fine. So I will jump over to the concepts of object-oriented programming now. Okay, I have told you what Selenium is, what it does, okay, what you need, right, and how to configure it in Eclipse. There is no exe file for Selenium. Fine. Now what I will do is that I'll make a new Java project. Oh, sorry, I'll make a new class. I'm sorry. I'll make a new class and I will name it as, say, bank. Fine. So I'm teaching you the concepts of object-oriented programming. Fine. Now, what is the feature of a bank? Right. You can write something like name of the bank. Okay. Then say int minimum deposit which you should have, minimum currency deposit which you should have in your bank. Okay, just taking a generic example. Right. So over here, if I create a new class known as test bank, right, in this, what I can do is I will do something known as creating the object of bank class. So this is my bank class. It's some other Java file. Okay. And from other Java file which is test bank, I'm creating the object of the bank class. All right. So what do? You write over here new bank. So when you write new bank, you create the object of this bank class. Now what do you mean by object? What happens practically? Practically in the memory, an object is created with two parameters, name and minimum deposit. Okay, right. So you can create as many objects you want. I can create 3 objects if I want. Okay, every object, right, every object will have a name and minimum deposit, but you will not be able to access these objects. Okay, to access these objects, you need object references. Okay, so you need to write like this: bank B1 equals to new bank and bank B2 and B3. So B1, B2 and B3 are the object references. They will point towards this bank. With B1, B2 and B3, you can change the change the state of the objects. Now what do I mean by that? For example, I can write over here b1 dot name is A, b2 dot name is B, b3 dot name is C. Okay, right, then b1 dot minimum deposit is 100, then b2 dot minimum deposit is 300, then b3 dot minimum deposit is 400. So with the dot operator, you can access the properties of these objects and you can change the values. Okay, so this becomes my bank A, this becomes B, and this becomes C, the names. Right, and you can change the state of the object with the help of references B1, B2, B3. Object and object reference is different. Please understand that. This is a very basic thing. Object reference points towards the object. If I write over here B1 dot name and then B2 dot name and B3 dot name. Okay, right. And if I run it, it will print ABC. Now, if I write B1 equals to B2, so what does this mean? This means that B1 will no longer point here. It will start pointing towards the location where B2 was pointing. Okay, right. So B1 equals to B2 means B1 will point where B2 is pointing. So if I write over here again this part and run it, it will print B and B 2 times because B1 and B2 they are pointing towards the same object. Okay. Now if I write over here B2 equals to B3 and print this again, what will be the output? Can anybody tell me? What would be the output?
BCC.
BCC, right? Okay, fine. So this is what the object and object reference is. It looks simple, but when we do it practically in the projects, you get confused. I'm sure most of you will get confused because objects will stay at a constant place in the memory. The references can move from one object to another object. Okay, fine. Now, moving ahead. Right. Moving ahead, if I just a minute, let me check it. Right, fine. Now over here, okay, this is the name and this is the minimum deposit. Now technically this variable is known as non-static global variable. Okay, this is also known as non-static global variable. Right. If I make a function like public void say ABC, right, or deposit, then I'm assuming you know what a function is, right? This is known as a non-static function. This function would also be part of every object. Okay, if I write inside it say system.out.println depositing in and the name of the bank. Okay, and if I call it out here, if I write b1 dot deposit function, then if you run it, it will print depositing in bank A because the name of b1 was A over here. If I write b2 dot depositing, it will print depositing in B. So whichever object calls the function, the parameters of that object are used. Okay, right. Now moving ahead, right. I hope you are able to get me. Fine. Now moving ahead, if you have this is the non-static global variable, this is the non-static function. Now what do you mean by static? What happens to static? Okay, look what static is, understand it carefully, right? For example, if I write over here, just a minute, in or string currency. Now suppose I am talking about sorry banks in Australia, suppose. So all the banks in Australia will have the currency as Australian dollars, right? So you will have to write for every object b1 dot currency is AUD, Similarly, B2.currency is AUD, and similarly B3.currency is AUD. Now, this is weird. You know that all the banks will be having Australian dollars as the currency. But you are initiating every object like this. So this actually what happens is that in the memory inside every object you will have currency field. Although you will know that every object will have the same value of that currency field. Okay, right. So what we do is that we make currency static. Okay, to avoid this, we make this as static. So what happens is that when you make static, it is removed from the object. If you make it static, then currency will not be the part of the object. Okay, right, fine. It will move at a common location in the memory on the top, and every object probably can access it from here. So you don't need to initiate the currency like this. See that you will see a yellow line over currency. This is a warning sign. Okay, right. So what you do is that you don't initiate it like that. You simply write bank, the name of the class, dot the static variable currency equals to say AUD. So all the objects will have the currency AUD. Static can be accessed directly with the name of the class. Please note this point. Okay, right? Okay, so this is a very important thing, right? That static can be accessed with the name of the class. For accessing the non-static things, you need to create the object of the class. Okay, fine, right? So even if you're able to understand this much, this will help you a lot. Fine. Okay. Now, anybody with any questions? Anyone with any questions?